Hello and welcome wherever you're joining me, and today's daf is daf 51. I will do as much as we can. So, following on from the previous daf, it is certain that the perforation was created before the slaughter of the animal. I'm just going to give a summary, so I forgot about that, of this Masechta tractate, so in Chullin Daf 51 from the Steinsaltz, and it discusses the law of shechit, the ritual slaughter of animals for consumption. We'll begin by examining the definition of a kosher animal, and then discuss the various methods of shechita that are considered valid. And we'll also discuss the importance of checking the animal for defects after it's been slaughtered and the consequences of finding such defects. One of the main points of discussion on Daf 51 is the definition of a kosher animal. The Gemara states that all animals that are domesticated and have cloven hoofs are considered kosher. This includes cattle, sheep, goats, and deer. However, not all animals that fit this definition are kosher. For example, camels, pigs, and horses are considered not kosher, even though they are domesticated and have cloven hooves. The Gemara also discusses the various methods of shechita that are considered valid. The main requirement of shechita is that the animal's trachea and esophagus must be severed with a single incision. It must be done with a sharp knife, and the knife must not be serrated or chipped. The incision must be made in the correct place on the animal's neck, and the knife must be drawn in a swift, continuous motion. The Gemara also discusses the importance of checking animals for defect after it has been slaughtered. This is because of a number of defects that can render an animal unkosher. These defects include defects in the lungs, liver, and the heart. If any of these defects are found, it must be discarded and cannot be consumed. Daf 51 concludes with a discussion of the consequence of finding a defect in an animal after it has been slaughtered. If the defect is found before the animal has been consumed, the animal is considered unkosher and must be discarded. However, if it is not found until after the animal is consumed, the animal is still considered kosher, and the person who consumed it is not liable for punishment. That was a quick summary. So let's dive into the detail. It is certain that the perforation was created before the slaughter of the animal, and it is therefore true if a drop of blood is not found on it. It is certain that it occurred after the slaughter, when the blood of the animal had stopped flowing. The animal is therefore kosher. If a scab covered the opening of a wound, Higlid pi hamaka, if one sells an animal for slaughter and the buyer slaughters it and finds it to be a terefa, if he found a needle perforating through the rectum with a drop of blood on it and the wound had scabbed over, it is certain that 3 days have passed since the perforation occurred. Therefore, if it was slaughtered within 3 days of the purchase, the sale was a mistaken transaction and the seller must refund the buyer. If the animal was slaughtered more than 3 days after the purchase, or if the wound was not scabbed over, it is uncertain whether the perforation occurred in the possession of the buyer or the seller. The buyer must therefore bring evidence that it occurred in the possession of the seller in order to claim a mistaken transaction, even if he has not yet paid for the animal in accordance with the price of Rambam Sefer Kinyan Hilchet Mechira 2015 Shochdoch Hoshe Mishpat 224-2, 232-11. By the perforation, it is certain that the perforation occurred 3 days before the slaughter. In this case, the customer was sold a terefa unwittingly, rendering the purchase a mistaken transaction. Some suggest this applies only to uncommon terefa, such as an animal with a needle in the rectum, where a normal buyer assumes the ability for common terefa, such as adhesions in the lungs, and cannot cancel the transaction in such cases. Not from the Rabbeinu Ephraim Sefer HaItor. The Ramban cites other precedents to the effect that even common defects are grounds for a buyer to claim a mistaken transaction, even if he did not stipulate so explicitly at the time of the purchase. The Rosh rejects these proofs and explains that one may claim a mistaken transaction only in cases where the seller could have known about the defect and the buyer trusted that he would not cheat him. With regard to a live terefa, though which is not evident even to the seller, the buyer must stipulate at the time of purchase that the seller assumes liability. Consequently, if the animal is sold less than 3 days before the slaughter, the buyer can claim that the transaction was performed in error, as he did not intend to buy a terefa animal, and the seller must refund the buyer. If a scab did not cover the opening of the wound, and it is uncertain whether the perforation occurred before or after the animal was purchased, the burden of proof rests upon the claimant. It's because one party may not be forced to pay another in a case of uncertainty. The buyer here is the claimant, since he is demanding the return of his money from the seller. Rashi, according to Tosfot, even if the buyer has acquired the animal but not yet paid for it, he must furnish proof or be forced to pay, since one presumes that if the defect was found in the buyer's house, it occurred in his house. As part of this opinion, Tadsford cites the case in Tractate Tubot 6b of a husband who finds a defect in his wife after marrying her. He must furnish proof that the defect occurred before the marriage in order to claim mistaken transaction, since one presumes that if the defect was found in his house, it occurred there. Accordingly, the buyer must furnish proof that the perforation occurred before the purchase in order to demand a refund. The Gemara asks, but in what way is this case different from all other perforations? Even though there is no blood on the wound that the master deems the animal to for the Gemara responds, there in all other cases there's nothing to which the blood can attach. Even if the wound had bled, the blood would be reabsorbed into the flesh. Here, since there is a needle, it follows that if it is the case that the perforation occurred before slaughter, blood from the wound would have attached to the needle. Accordingly, if there is no blood on the needle, it is certain that the perforation occurred after slaughter. The Gemara relates that Rav Safra said to Abaye, did the master see a Torah scholar who came from the west, Eretz Yisrael, and said, my name is Rav Avira? He said that there was an incident that came before Abaye Nasi involving a needle that was found in the thickness of the rectum, protruding from only one side, and he deemed the animal trefa. Abaye sent a message to Rav Avira calling for him to come and explain the matter, since it contradicts Abaye that states that the animal is a trefa only if needed protrude from both sides. Rav Avira did not come before him, so Abaye went to Rav Avira. Rav Avira was standing on the roof. Abaye said to him, let the master descend and come. But Rav Avira did not descend. Abaye descended to him and said, say to me, what were the circumstances of the incident itself? Rav Avira said to him, I am a director of assemblies. Mavte Kenesios. The phrase appears only once in the Talmud. It literally denotes the person who dismisses the students from the study hall or the congregation from the synagogue. This has been described in Jewish Talmud as the responsibility of the disseminator, Brachot 4:1. According to Rashi, the phrase refers to a board administrative position, which with responsibility for order in the study hall in general. The title Rav as opposed to Rabbi indicates that Rav Avira was a Torah scholar, but not seeing the formal ordination reserved for great sages. In the study hall, I was standing above the great Rabbi Yehudi Hanassi, Rabbi Rabbah, the great rabbi. Rashi understands that this refers to Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi, who in the Talmud is simply called Rabbi. This is historically improbable, given that the episode occurred during the life of Abaye, who lived considerably later. It seems reasonable that it refers to Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi the first, Rabbi Yehuda Nissia first, the grandson of Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi, or even his own grandson, Rabbi Yehuda Nissia too. Some explain this may refer to Rabbi Yochanan, and the term Rabbi simply denotes that he was teacher or served as a generic title of honor. And Rav Huna of Sapuri and Rabbi Yossi Medir was sitting before him, and a needle came from Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi that was found in the thickness of the rectum protruding from one side, i.e. the inside. Hanassi turned the rectum over and found a drop of blood on the outside, parallel to the wound on the inside, and he deemed the animal a terefa. And he said, if there is no wound on the outside there as well, from where is this drop of blood? Abaye said to Avira, he caused that man trouble needlessly, i.e. you trouble me for no reason. This is nothing more than the Mishnah, which states that the animal terefa if the abdomen of the rectum was pervaded to the outside. The Mishnah states, an animal that fell from the roof is a terefa. Nafla, fell. This halacha is unique to terefa. If an animal falls from a height of 10 handbreds or more than roughly, one may be concerned that its limbs have been shattered. According to Rashi, any animal that survived for a 24-hour period can definitely, he said, not have shattered limbs, although it may require inspection for other injuries that would render it a terefa. The Rambam understands that an animal is deemed to have shattered limbs if one of the internal organs in the body has lost its shape due to the fall, even if it has not been broken or perforated. This inspection will be carried out only after 24 hours have passed, when the animal's condition has stabilized, says the Rashba. His limbs may have been shattered. Rav Huna says, if one left an animal above on the roof, if an animal jumped voluntarily in from a great height, one need not be concerned that the fall rendered it terefa, even if it cannot walk afterward, since it established that it could survive the fall unharmed. This applies as well if it jumped from a window or skylight. Therefore, if one left the animal in a high place and the matter found on the ground, the animal renders kosher. According to the statement of Rav Huna Ravashi, Rambam Sefer Kedusha Shechit 9:9, Shulchan Aruch Yodei 58:11 on the roof, and he came back and found it below, but he did not see it fall. One need not be concerned with regard to the shattering of limbs. One may presume that it jumped intentionally and was not injured. The Gemara relates, there was a certain kid belonging to a arena that saw barley grows through an open skylight, and jumped down through the skylight and fell from the roof to the ground. The case came before Rashi, and Ravina said to him, what is rationale for the statement that Rav Huna says that if one left an animal above and he came back and found it below, one need not be concerned about the possibility of shattering of limbs, and because the animal usually has them to grab hold of. And so since this kid jumped through a skylight, or it did not have something to grab hold of, and one must be concerned, or perhaps it's because the animal evaluates itself and determines that it can jump without injury. If so, this kid also evaluates itself before jumping, and one need not be concerned. Rashi said to him, it's because the animal evaluates himself before jumping, and this kid also evaluated itself before jumping. Therefore, one need not be concerned about the possibility of shattering of limbs. The Gemara relates that there was a certain ewe that was in the house of Chaviva, whose hind legs were dragged. Rabbi Yema said, this ewe suffers from rheumatism. Shigrona. What Shigrona? Shigrona nakte. If an animal drags its legs, and it is uncertain whether it fell from a height, one need not be concerned that this is due to a spinal injury contracted during a fall. Rather, one may presume that this is rheumatism, in accordance with the same of Rabbi Yema. But if the animal certainly fell, it must be inspected. Since today there is no tradition as to how to perform an inspection, any animal that requires inspection is deemed a terei, for the same halacha applies with regard to a bird, even if the animal was in a place where it likely fell. One need not presume that it fell if the matter is uncertain. Rambam Sefer Kedusha Shechit 9:10, Yodei 2:7-8, and in the comment of Ramon the Shach and Darki Teshuva there. Many but that's a textual variant that reads Shigdona, which is known as a mandrik, Shigidonia, meaning derived from the disease of the thigh. Some claim that the word derives from Greek, like the Latin ischadicum, meaning a disease of the thighs caused by pressure on the sciatic nerve. This can cause great pain and difficulty walking. Some understand the word as referring to rheumatoid arthritis or gout, which caused by inflammation of the joints, and this is why she drags her legs. Ravina objects to this, but perhaps the spinal cord was cut, and this is why the ewe dragged her legs, and the animal is a terei, for they inspected her and found that the spinal cord was cut, as Ravina said, the Gemara knows. And even so, the halacha is in accordance with the opinion of Rav Yema. Rheumatism is common, but a cut spinal cord is not common. Accordingly, one need not be concerned about the possibility of a cut spinal cord. Rav Huna also says, with regard to rams that butt another one, if rams butt each other, one is not concerned that this shatters their limbs and renders them terei for it. But if they fall to the ground from the impact, one must be concerned that the limbs are shattered due to the fall, rendering them terei in accordance with the statement of Rav Huna. This ruling applies if animals fell from a height of less than 10 handbreadths. I'm saying we could do 9:10, on the shach there. One need not be concerned with the God's shattering of limbs, even though they are in pain and stand still. It is only a fever that afflicts them. One need not be concerned about the possibility of severe injuries, but if they fall on the ground due to the impact, we certainly means that the limbs may have been shattered. Rav Menashe says, with regard to these rams that thieves steal, if thieves steal an animal from its pen, even if they throw it over a very high fence, one need not be concerned that this renders the animal as a terei for it. This is because the thieves throw them carefully so that they land on their hips and can run before them. If they throw an animal while turning it out of necessity, one must be concerned that they threw it roughly. If they return the animal out of repentance, the animal is kosher, as they will have returned it carefully in accordance with the statement of Manasseh. Rambam Sefer Kedusha Shechit 9:11, Shulchan Aruch Yodei 58:12. And third offense, one need not be concerned with regard to shattering of limbs. What is the reason for this? When the thieves throw them over the fence, they throw them so that they land on their hips. Rashi understands that thieves throw the sheep such that they land on their haunches. touches where it is likely that the bones or spinal cord will be broken. The Meiri explains that the thieves lower the animals by the hips, perhaps by gripping the hips so they land on their feet. Others understand this term as indicating that the thieves lower the animals using rope. Some countries hold that if an animal falls on its hips, it will not be deliberately thrown away. It must be considered that limbs were shattered. Whether or not the owner said that they will be able to run before them, but if the thieves return them to the owner, we certainly must be concerned that limbs may have been shattered, since the thieves do not throw them carefully when returning them. This is a statement, and the statement applies when they return them due to fear of being caught, or are otherwise forced to return them. But if they return them due to repentance, they have performed full-fledged repentance and will take care to return them without injury. Rabbi Yehuda says, the Rav says, if one hit an animal on its head with a stick, and the blow fell along the entire length of the spine, the animal is kosher, and one need not be concerned that the spine might have been severed by the blow. If the end of the stick reached the middle of the spine, the animal has been placed in a place where the blow fell. Likewise, if the stick had knots on it, one must inspect the place where the knots fell. If one hit the animal across its spine, one must inspect the spine in the place where the blow fell, in accordance with the statement of Rabbi Yehuda. Halacha authorities differ as to whether the animal still requires inspection. They were to walk normally all agree that this halacha applies only to especially harsh blows. We're not concerned after a normal blow, provided that the animal can walk normally after one. That's when Rambam says Kedusha Cheshachita, the Din Shachnoch Yodea 36, Teshuva there. And the stick and the length of the stick continued towards his back, or if one hit an animal on its tail and the length of the stick continued towards its head, such that in either case the blow extended along the entire spine, one need not consider with regard to shattering of limb. But if the length of the stick concluded at the middle of the back, we must be concerned that the strike caused an injury to the spine. And if there are knots protrusion on the stick, we consider that it injured the spine. Even the stick fell across the entire back, and if he struck it like a lash across the width of the back, we consider that it injured the spine. And Naaman said, the room is not subject to concern about possible shattered limbs. One need not be concerned that the calf limbs may have been shattered at birth due to contractions, and one need not to wait 24 hours to determine that the animal is kosher, as one does with an animal that fell from a height, and according to the statement of Rav Naaman, as understood by the majority of the commentaries. In addition, if a female animal fell and shattered its womb, and the rest of its organs are unharmed, it is kosher, in accordance to the interpretation of the Rambam Sefer Kedusha Cheshachita 9:17, Shachnoch Yodea 15:2. The early commentators opposed at the statement, as this ruling seems obvious. If the limbs of the animal were shattered by birth, most of the animals would die shortly after being born. And explain that the statement refers only to births with complication, where the calf is unable to walk up to birth stages. From Tosfot, it's going to be like discharges, Tosfot would be in poets. Others explain that the statement refers only to animals that fall roughly from the birth canal to the ground. And being a Gershom, some commentaries cite the continuation of the Gemara and evidence that the statement refers even to non-birth. They explain that one might think that it's necessary to be concerned even for the minority of calves whose limbs are shattered by birth, and one would therefore need to wait 24 hours after every birth to deem the calf kosher. Rav Naaman's statement teaches that this is unnecessary, says Iran. The Rambam understands the statement as dismissing concern for shattering of the womb itself. See the response of the Rivash. In other words, one may not be concerned that the limbs of a newborn calf may have been shattered by the now birth canal. Rabbi said to Rav Naaman, that which is taught in the Bible supports your opinion. One day old infant becomes impure if he experiences a gonorrhea discharge of ziva. If a 1 day old newborn becomes impure if he experiences ziva, and ziva Rambam saved the mixture of most of 1-4. And that was the first Amud A. Wish you a very good day and take care.